Today on CJ Off-Road, we're going to help our JL breathe a little easier with the help from Injen. If you're looking to increase the performance of your JL Wrangler by adding on a simple cold air intake, today we're going to be installing this Injen Super Nano Web Dry Filter featuring the Power-Flow polished tube onto our 2018 JL Wrangler. This Injen cold air intake includes everything that you need to get it bolted up to your 3.6 liter JL Wrangler. Features a T6 6061 mandrel bent induction tube that is in the polished finish to give it a nice classy look underneath the hood. Has a Super Nano Web Dry Filter which is going to increase performance and according to Injen will increase your horsepower by 9 and your foot-pounds of torque by 11. It also features a black plastic intake surround which is going to protect that dry filter from any mud or debris getting inside your intake. And includes all the necessary hardware and is also available in a black finish as well as with an oiled filter. That being said, let's get it installed in our 2018 JL Wrangler. Tools you need for this installation: 1/4 inch ratchet, 8mm socket, 10mm socket, trim removal tool, and a small pair of pliers. We're at the front end of our JL, and before we can install our new Injen cold air intake, we're going to remove the factory intake system. The first step of the removal process is to remove this breather hose right here by depressing on this gray section and pulling towards the firewall. Just pop right out. Next, remove the two 10mm bolts holding on this factory induction tube. To remove the temperature sensor here, what we're going to do is just lightly twist it counterclockwise with an adjustable crescent wrench and pull it straight out. Just be very careful with these. They're plastic, don't put too much pressure on them or they will break. From the inside here, just gonna grab a hold of it. Twist it lightly counterclockwise, and you can do it by hand. Just breaking it free in the beginning and then just slowly rock it back and forth and it'll pull right out. Remove the two push pins holding it on here. And just set the sensor aside in a safe spot. There's another push pin that actually holds onto your factory intake that you have to remove before you can get it out. It's right behind here. I've got the trim removal tool on it. Just pop it up. Up by the throttle body, there's going to be an 8mm bolt that holds on this band clamp from the soft part of your induction tube. Use an 8mm socket to get it pulled off, or you can use a flathead screwdriver. Don't fully twist it off, just enough to loosen it up so you can get this off your throttle body. The last bolt holding this intake on is going to be this 10mm here over on the passenger side fender. Once again, just pull that out. Once it's free, we'll now be able to remove the entire intake. Now over here, it's actually stuck in through these rubber grommets. Give it a nice pull. Just kind of work on it a little bit, and it'll pull right out. We've got our Injen intake box here and our filter, and now what we're gonna do is actually interlock the filter into here before we start this install. We can turn it around to this side, and now when you slide it in, there's actually a little lump right here, or a little cutout, and you're gonna place that matching up with the one on the filter, and it'll set in and twist it clockwise about a 1/4 turn. It'll stop, and now that's completely locked into there. It won't move, and it's a really secure way to have this on. Now this intake box has a small window here so you can look in and see how your filter is doing. We're gonna turn that so it faces upwards, and you're gonna have some markings here. This is actually gonna face the front radiator support, and what we're gonna do is take this edge with the offset holes and set it like this right onto the intake box. Use the provided hardware. Then we can get this tightened up with a 10mm socket. With the box flipped upside down, you're gonna put these included studs through the bottom hole going upwards, then put a washer and the flange nut onto there. Tighten them by hand, then we'll use a ratchet to get them fully tight. All right, now you're ready to install it into the Jeep. Place your intake box into place by pushing it into the factory location to the grommets, and it'll freely stand a little bit, kind of fall a tad bit, but we're gonna put that tube in, as well as get some clamps up on this throttle body next. Slide 2 clamps over here, and then we're gonna put this right over the factory throttle body. Push it all the way to the edge. Make sure it goes underneath too. Get the clamps to both edges. Now we can go get our intake tube. Place the grommet for the temperature sensor onto your intake tube. Make sure it's fully seated. We're going to push this end of the intake tube onto the throttle body side. And then before we get it onto our air box, I'm actually going to take one of these clamps and slip it over here. Rotate it downwards. Let's get these clamps tightened up using an 8mm socket. We can get our temperature sensor installed. We're going to now reinstall the temperature sensor onto that grommet that you installed. Just lightly twist as you go in, that way the grommet doesn't fall inside the tube. There you go, it's fully seated. Place this clip back onto place. Hear the snap, then we can tighten down our last clamp over here on the air box. Once you get that last hose clamp tightened up, your installation is complete. Well, the Injen cold air intake is successfully installed into our 2018 JL Wrangler, and honestly, it looks really awesome under our engine bay here. It classes it up in the front. It removed a lot of extra weight that we had up there with that big, bulky factory air box. It took about an hour to remove it and install the new one, which I think is really simple for an intake kit. And you can find it as well as the black tube right here at cjponyparts.com. Hope you enjoyed that video. To stay up to date on our CJ Off-Road videos, make sure to subscribe up top here. And for any other installs, make sure to click the link right above.